I'm Berube. I look at policies and practices that affect the economic and social well-being of people who live in cities and metropolitan areas. Sanctuary cities don't have an explicit definition, but it generally refers to local jurisdictions that in some way limit their cooperation with federal immigration authorities. The way in which they typically limit that cooperation is that they refuse to honor detention requests from ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Service, to detain or pursue undocumented and illegal immigrants who have come into contact with local law enforcement. There are perhaps upwards of 600 counties around the country that may have some kind of sanctuary status, limit their cooperation in some way, and a few dozen cities, New York, Boston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Washington, that have publicly announced that they are sanctuary cities and have been for some time. So in late January, a few days after taking office, President Trump issued an executive order that, among other provisions, would withhold federal funding from these so-called sanctuary jurisdictions. This was a kind of twofer for President Trump. He campaigned on cracking down on illegal immigration, so this is a very explicit way for him to suggest that he's doing that. And secondly, it's a chance for him to take on Democratic mayors in big cities that are the so-called cultural elites that he ran against as well. It's interesting that President Trump he's a born and bred New Yorker, is an urban real estate developer, but this sanctuary city crackdown is sort of consistent with how he's talked about urban policies, viewed cities as unsafe and crime-ridden. And so this is a follow-through on his promise to be a law and order president. A few days after President Trump issued the executive order, the city of San Francisco actually sued the Trump administration, arguing that this was a constitutional overreach on the part of the executive. And many other cities will join them, I think, for three reasons. The first is substantive. They don't believe local law enforcement in these cities that they should be carrying out federal immigration policy. And moreover, they think it might actually make their cities less safe if it causes their immigrant communities to be afraid to come forward to talk about criminal activity for fear of being deported. And research actually shows that sanctuary cities are on average safer. They have less crime than the national average. The second reason is financial. There's a lot of money at stake here. New York City receives about $9 billion a year in federal grants. Washington, D.C., $3 billion. L.A. and San Francisco, about $500 million each. And the third is political. The residents of these cities, they don't like Donald Trump. They didn't vote for Donald Trump in very large numbers. 19% of New York City residents voted for Trump in the presidential election. So this is a chance for their political leaders, mayors and city council members, to stand up to the administration, to resist in a way that I think scores them political points with their residents. Cities and counties get a lot of different kinds of grants from the federal government for a wide range of purposes, including things like transportation and infrastructure, which at the same time the Trump administration had campaigned on and has promised to spend more money on American infrastructure to create jobs and upgrade roads and transportation. So there may be a little bit of a contradiction at hand in saying, yes, I'm going to invest in places to create new jobs on the one hand, and then on the other hand saying we need to enforce immigration policy in this way, I'm going to hold back that money. I'm not sure you can actually do both of those things at the same time.